of my favorite quotes is, "To thyself be true." I think if you are true to yourself, your life would make a lot more sense. Because sometimes when you're true to yourself and you listen to people, the thing that they say that pains you, that makes you say don't listen, don't judge, that's the thing that you should be paying attention to. I want people to listen to me and tell me the truth. Yeah. Correct me, because I don't know everything. Do you understand? So 3 words: motherhood journey. Beautiful, evolving, surprising. I'll tell you why I think it's surprising, because I think that children come like a package, you know, and you really don't know what is inside the package until they start growing and evolving. And so what has been very surprising for me as a mom is just watching my daughters like become who God created them to be. So everything from their different personalities, because I have 2 same gender children, but they are so different. They're like night and day. Watching their personalities evolve, watching even just how like they relate with like the world, their talents coming out, you know, their gifts. One of my daughters is very extroverted like I am. My second daughter is more like suspicious, a little bit more introverted. You know, she notices every single thing. Like, she's the one that if she tells me something, I believe it, because she sees things that I can never see, you know. So it's just beautiful to watch like how different they are and just allow them become, you know, who God created them to be. So it's really a very surprising journey. I mean, I have so many examples I could give, but it's just beautiful, evolving, surprising. I always talk about seasons because I think that it's important for young people especially to know that life is in seasons, right? So for instance, so I have a lot of older friends and a lot of younger friends. So I have a lot of, you know, like older mentors, aunties, grandmas, mummies, and I also have a lot of young friends. And the difference in the lives of older people versus younger people is something that people just need to accept, right? So when your children are young, you are in a season where there's certain things that you just have to do. Like, there's only so much that you can outsource. When your children are older and they've left the house, it's a very, very different life. So when I look at some of the older people I know whose children have left, and you know, they have like an empty nest and it's just them and their husband, their lives are so different. They have time to do things that you and I probably would not have the time to do. And that's fine, you know. I think people should just embrace every season of life and enjoy it, right? So one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people want to advance the season, right? So you have young children, but then you want to be this high-flying career woman that doesn't have time and is always jet setting. You can't. You can be a career woman that's high flying, but you have to let it tally with your season so that your children and your spouse don't miss out on you as a person to the point that you end up regretting it, right? And I see a lot of people who have been very honest with me with, you know, like their stories about things that they wish that they had done differently. Children will not be young forever. I say it all the time. I mean, I look at my children and I'm like, how did they get so big? Like, like I can't believe, you know, like how grown they are. And so for me, it's like, they won't be young forever. So do what you need to do when they are still at home with you, because they will leave. Whether you like it or not, they're going to leave your house one day by the very special grace of God. And you don't want to regret that you didn't spend the time molding them, raising them, correcting them. Raising children is a real thing. Like when the Bible says train up a child, you have to train your children. You have to be present to even know what to train in them. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm such a big advocate of just listen. Embrace each season of your life. Don't try to be like anybody else. Some people, when you look at what they're doing, it tallies with their season. But if you are comparing yourself, let's say that you have a newborn as an example. Yesterday I was gisting somebody about newborn hazing, and she was like, oh really, like what does that mean? So people really don't sleep with newborns? I'm like, you can't really sleep because they eat all the time. You know, and if you're nursing them, you have to wake up and nurse them, you know. Can you imagine having a newborn and saying that you want to be flying up and down? How? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I guess it would depend, you know, on certain factors, but for me, I'm a very big believer in not sacrificing the most important things in life because of bread and butter. Because like I always say to everybody, your children, they will grow. I promise you, in so and so years, they will be out of your house. And you don't want to think to yourself that you sacrificed the time that you should have been spending molding them, training them, loving them, getting to know each other because of bread and butter. When I think about, you know, like Simi and Iwaju specifically, I mean, I don't think I did anything because she obviously just has a gift that God gave her that I'm still in awe of it. My husband was just like, okay, what's going on here? Like, wow. One thing I will tell you though is that, so I went on a purpose journey when I was maybe in like my very early 30s. I think so. Like I had just had Simi. Well, no, I hadn't just had Simi. Simi was probably about 2, and I hadn't had Tumi yet. And I had a whole moment where I just felt like, okay, so this is life. So you have a good job on paper, you're married, you have a child. Is that it? You know what I mean? And so I went on this journey of discovery, which has just been such a beautiful journey for me. And part of what that journey taught me, no, let me backtrack actually. Before I really went gung-ho into it, I had already started feeling, even before I got married and I had children, like there were certain things that I needed to pray about. And then I got this book called Supernatural Childbirth by Jackie Mice. There's a whole long story behind even like Simi and her conception and her birth, just a lot of drama. But I remember reading that book and praying the prayers and thinking to myself, do you know what? God, I'm not one of those moms that has time to do everything. So I'm a very motherly mom to my children, but I'm not one of those people that dreamt of having children, dreamt of getting married. That was not me. Zero. That wasn't me at all. I was more of a very like, okay, let's roll with life. Let's see how things go. And so I was like, God, I can't be one of those moms that has a minivan and is doing 1 million extracurricular activities. Please just show us what our children's gifts are early so that we can nurture them in that direction. Because I also felt like with me, I wasn't really sure what my gifts were for like a long time, So you go to school and stuff, but I felt like there has to be more. So I had a very distinct prayer point. I remember it very well about, God, please just show us. I don't want to do music, ballet, swimming, tennis, gym. I cannot. I don't have the bone in me. I don't have the ability. I won't even do it. I'll fumble. You know what I mean? So why don't you just show us what these girls, well, our children, I didn't even know that we were going to be 2 girls at the time, what their gifts are, so that when they are young, we can start nurturing them in that direction. Because I also, I'm a woman of faith, and I really believe that God created everybody for a purpose. And that purpose would actually be clear if you pay attention. So I think that's the only thing that I can link to what has happened, is that I said, God, please give us clearly. But outside of that, honestly, nothing. Because even when she did the audition, first of all, we didn't even know that it was Disney. That's number one. It was literally like, oh, there's this script, do this recording. In fact, the day that we did the recording that she submitted, she just got discharged from the hospital because she had to have an emergency appendectomy. Very dramatic story. And we literally recorded it in my room under the duvet because it said, oh, make sure that it's very quiet. So, record it maybe like under like covers or whatever, so that, there's no background noise. And we recorded it, we submitted it, we forgot about it. And then the next thing, we get a message like months after saying, oh, Simisola has been cast for the role and it's a Disney role. All of us were just like, what? Now, when she started recording, I was just in awe because she was in primary 6 at the time, which, as we know in Nigeria, is an exam class, as we like to call it, because you're going to secondary school. Simisola is a very ambitious woman. She wanted to be head girl, and she had all these plans. And I remember her coming home and telling me, Mommy, I want to run for head girl. And I'm like, sure, Auntie, anything you want to do, Auntie, do it, So she was very, very busy. She was head girl. She was preparing for entrance exams. And then she was recording Iwaju almost every week at 4 o'clock. So Simisola would come back home from school and she would do her homework. And she's like, okay, let's go to the studio. And then we get to the studio. And they even had a studio teacher there for her in case she had homework. But she'd always got her homework done prior to getting to the studio. And even watching her recording, I'm like, God really gives people gifts. Because what? First of all, voice recording is very difficult because you're not, you're talking to paper. Like you're in the studio with paper and you have to do and I was just like, every recording, I think that any of us in my family attended, myself, my husband, my sister, even to me, were just like, what is good? Because she was so natural, And so I think for me, I was just so happy that God had confirmed so many things that I already kind of knew and thought, even through my own child, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, I would say maybe what we did was we supported her, obviously, obviously keeping her very, very grounded, very, very intentional about letting her be a child, you know what I mean? Like there's many things that, people like say to us like, oh, do this, do that. And I'm like, no, why? Like, she's 13 years old, can you just let her be? Somebody asked me, oh, are you guys going to move to LA? I said, because what happened? I don't understand. Let's be focused. Anyway, so the point I'm making is that it's all just a beautiful journey that I believe is unfolding, but I am very intentional about the kind of things that I talk to God about. Like, I try not to be ambiguous, you know. I'm like, God, even like now, I'm like, God, what do you really want for her? Because she has all kinds of grand plans for her life, you know, outside of voice acting. She knows where she wants to go to for university because she's extra like that. And I side eye her all the time. I'm like, Auntie, calm down. You're 13. You don't need to know the uni. But she's like, but I know where I want to go. I'm like, okay. You know, so it's really just learning them, watching them, supporting them. And I think being very intentional to pour the right things into them, and also letting them just be who God made them to be. But obviously, with the parental guidance, because parental guidance is extremely important. I spend a lot of time, you know, kind of just, you know, like observing people, because I do, so out of all the things I do, of which there are many, you know, I also run classes for teenagers, because one of the sets of books I've written is for teenagers and their guardians, parents, teachers, and all of that. So honestly, I don't think that there's any substitute for presence, but I do think that the reality is that you can't be present all the time, and I think that's fine. You know, like I said, like I'm ambitious, like I'm not the kind of person that doesn't do stuff. I do a lot of things. But one thing I'll tell you is I have been very intentional, and I learned this from a lot of older people as well, in just telling God what I want. Like, God, this season of life I'm in, you see it, you know that we need money, for instance, to send these children to school, to good school, you know, and do all these things, but then we also need to be present. And I really honestly think that if we pay attention, I think God actually directs our path. So I'll give you an example. Before Simisola started primary, I think it was primary 6 or primary 5, I can't remember which one. I changed jobs, right? And the job that I got, I didn't realize it at the time that God was very intentional in me getting that job, because I had a level of flexibility that I would never have had in another type of a job. But it didn't occur to me at the time. Do you understand? Like, I was kind of just flowing. In retrospect, I can see why he wanted me to be more present at that point in time in my children's lives. Simi especially, because, you know, I think Tumi was probably in, so if Simi was in 5, I think Tumi was in 2. But there was a lot going on with Simi in primary 5, you know, like she had a bunch of things that were going on that I think God wanted us to be present to observe. But the job was perfect for that season. I think that we need to not just live life anyhow, like, so just assume that things are going to just work out for you. You need to think, you need to reflect, you need to be true to your seasons, and don't deceive yourself that you can do at 100% in a season where maybe you should have some sort of a balance, what you can probably do later. Do you understand what I mean? You need to ask yourself what kind of family you are trying to raise, because I think, once again, like, no judgment. There's one new slang that they've been saying. What's the new slang? Young people need to help me. No judgment, do something. We listen, we don't judge. That's it. I'm so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so cool. I know a cool slang. We listen, we don't judge. Whatever. Anyway, that's also another one of those things that I hear, and I laugh, and then I'm like, but why are you people lying to yourselves? We don't judge. Okay, no problem. Sometimes judgment is good for you. You know, I love the older people that call me and they yell at me and say, Folusho, you know, they're not judging, they're advising. Yes. When you say we listen, we don't judge, and you make it into an anthem, you might fall into error and you don't even know. But don't let me go that way, because I'll start preaching. The point I'm making is that you can't not be present. I'm not present all the time, but when I'm present, I try to be really, really present. I also have the benefit of having a lot of flexibility now, but that flexibility is intentional. Like, it's from talking to God, it's from praying, it's from knowing. Because I see my children, I'm like, this age that they are at is a very delicate age, you know, because I have a teenager, I have a preteen. When your children are small, you know, your presence is different, right? So you are present, but if you're not present, they'll be fine, in the sense that when children are very young, they pick up stuff, but there's only so much that they are picking up if you have them within a controlled environment. Do you understand what I mean? When they become teenagers and they're in secondary school is a whole new ballgame. So I remember secondary school very well. Very, very well. I went to Queen's College, and I would be lying if I said I remember. I remember the girls that when we started QC, they were on the straight and narrow. And then by GS3, they had gone like this. I remember the people that on Parents Teachers Day, their mothers would be slapping them in the hall. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember so many things about secondary school that I'm like, this is a very delicate period. So I need to not just be present, I need to be mentally engaging, because sometimes we think that physical presence is it. It's not just physical presence. You need to talk to them, gist with them. What's the gist in school? We gist about everything. We gist about boys. I told them about how boys used to vow me when I was in secondary school. There's nothing that we don't gist about. And I think that those things are important because they see that their parents are, real people that were once teenagers. I think the problem is that a lot of parents make their children feel like they were born parents. Nobody was born a parent. We were born children, and then we grew, and then we became parents, right? But you need to be able to relate with your children in a way that they even feel free to even talk to you. My kids tell me different stories, and you see that a lot of people just don't have the time. The time is something that you need to decide on your own. Like you need to have a meeting with yourself and ask yourself, if you are in a role that does not give you any time for your family, ask yourself what you're sacrificing, and then ask yourself 5-10 years from now, because for most people, 10 years, depending on the age of your child is either going to be out of your house or close to being out of your house. So if you haven't spent that time with them and you're spending all of the time in your office or in your work, then what's going to happen when they leave? And then what kind of relationship are you going to have with them? I've had a few people tell me about how some children don't want to talk to their parents, like young adults, like they have no interest, in even just hanging with their parents. In fact, somebody told me about how there's a child that she knows that will spend time with her auntie, but refuses to see her mom because she's like, when I was younger, you didn't even have any time for me. Like, you're always busy. Then you sent me off to boarding school. I never saw you, and now you want to be my friend. Because Gen Z, they just say it as they feel it, whether right or wrong. And so for me, I'm not sacrificing the most important things in my life because work. See, the thing about money is that money is good when your life is making sense. You know that it's the kind of money that you make that you now begin to ask yourself, was it worth it? I've seen people regret, people that are very comfortable and they have all these things. Let me not share too many stories, but I've seen people and they're just like, so we have this mansion and then what? Do you understand what I mean? Your children don't like you. They don't want to come to your house and visit you for Christmas. You are begging them. Now that people are even relocating, it's even worse because they will just erase you from there. You know what I mean? So I'm not willing to sacrifice my family, my future, because, when your kids are also older and you're older, you want them, to really want to come and visit you, to want to actually love you. Not that it's by force, but that they actually enjoy you. You know what I mean? And you can't really have that if you haven't done what you should do when they're growing up. I also think that I don't want anybody to ever think that, it's too late for me to correct maybe any mistakes that I may have made. I think there's always a point of correction, but you have to be true to yourself. Don't look left, don't look right. Be true to yourself. Look in the mirror and be true to yourself. What have you done, perhaps that maybe you shouldn't have done? How do you adjust it? I've seen people apologize to their children and say, you know what? I'm sorry that at this point in your life I did this, but this is the reason why I had to do it. Because sometimes as well, parents are going through a lot. And in this generation, listen, even my mom says to me that she feels bad for us, that we're definitely contending with a lot more than she feels like they have to contend with. So they have to contend with stuff, but it's not the same, And so one of my favorite quotes is, "To thyself be true." I think if you are true to yourself, your life would make a lot more sense. I think the problem is that people want to be, don't listen, don't judge. Nobody should tell me what they think. I can do it all by myself. Good luck to you if that's the way you want to live your life. Because sometimes when you're true to yourself and you listen to people, the thing that they say that pains you, that makes you say don't listen, don't judge, that's the thing that you should be paying attention to. But no, you're saying don't listen, don't judge. Sorry, I have to just, because those things offend you. I'm like, what's all these nonsense slang that they are bringing again? Okay, no problem. We listen, we don't judge. Okay? Yeah. I want people to listen to me and tell me the truth. Correct me because I don't know everything. Do you understand? Older people have a view. It's not necessarily anything other than they have lived longer than you, so they see more than you have seen. They've seen more than you have seen. Even me now, at my current age, I'm such a different person from who I was 10 years ago in like my early 30s. The things I used to use by mouth, now I'm like, wow, auntie, wow. Do you understand? Now you're walking it a bit. Is it that easy? See your mouth just wagging, So you have to be able to learn from people. And I think that's a very important thing in motherhood, especially. Community is so important. There's not, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I've ever done or do without the power of my community. Everybody from my husband, to my mother-in-law, to my mother, to my domestic, everybody, the community, they listen. And I love my community, do you understand? I take care of my community because they are taking care of me. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. Hello everyone, my name is Foluso Gbadamosi. I do a bunch of different things, but for the purpose of this video, I'm an author, I'm a coach, and I also work in the development sector. I'm a mother and I'm a maker.